Hi there, it's Samuel Larson here. I wanted to make a video about e-commerce lead generation pop-ups that is very practical and that can instantly help you if you implement it well to get a better results from your e-commerce store. Or even if you don't have an e-commerce store, it will still work for different type of businesses. But I've noticed that the game is played in the maybe customers. So you have your small number of yes customers that will basically buy anything. Okay, you just get the right offer in front of them and they will not have a problem going with the purchase. And then you have a big number of no customers. Like those are not going to buy you no matter what. Your conversion rate will never be 100%. And then you have your big number of customers that is maybe customers. All right, they're cold enough to not buy now. They're not also warm enough to also not buy now. So it's what do you do with those leads? And those are the ones where the game is won or lost, because obviously you have your paid off customer acquisition or paid off visitor. So in Facebook ads you pay for a click, on SEO you pay for that content, etc. So you're always paying something, and he who can pay the most to acquire a customer is going to win. So how do we make sure that we can afford more to acquire that lead to visit our site versus our competitors? Because that's how we're going to win on those traffic wars. So that largely comes down to obviously your offer, your site, etc., but also your funnel. So how do you take a colder lead and turn it into a warmer lead? So traditionally, we had a system where people had their landing pages, they had their ads, and then they were trying to convert straight from the offer. And that worked well maybe 15 years ago because people didn't have that many offers bombarded them, and internet was still a relatively new thing. So this worked well. But now with increased competition and increased bombardment for customers, we are having to focus more on colder and colder traffic and turning that first into leads and then turning those leads into first time customers instead of trying to turn those cold traffic into first time customers right away. So most retailers used to do that, where you have traffic and then they either buy or don't. So maybe 1% bought, and 99% of the cases the answer was no. No money made on those people. So the answer here is to build a sort of a mousetrap for email opt-in. So you want to offer something of value that will be a perfect fit for those maybe customers. And then the game is played on converting those customers better. Now, this is something, if you implement it well, it can easily increase your conversion rate by 30%. So let's say you go from 2% to 2.6%. And also if you add retargeting ads for additional punch beyond these email campaigns, you might see even better results. But the great thing here is that not only will your initial conversion rate be higher, the second conversion or order is also more profitable because you took care of the relationship from the beginning. So let's say if you just have the site and people buy, it's easier for them to not come back again because they don't really have that engagement with you, as opposed to a good email campaign where they are getting familiar with the brand, understanding its value better, and really making more of a considered first purchase. And that means that they're more committed to it. And best customers come from this way. This is an automated effort, doesn't cost you anything but time once you do it well once. Now, in order to get people to subscribe to that email list, that is a little bit of friction. And to overcome friction, you need a reward. So friction, reward, how do we bridge the gap so that the reward is big enough to overcome that friction. So you have a simple pain pleasure dynamic. Now, many things here, but I would urge you to be a little bit creative. So if you just copy whatever your competition is doing, they're most likely haven't thought it through as well as you should. So a few different ones that come to mind are, obviously you can offer the discounts. Those are the most common things. You see the discount for the first time user, and that's okay. We're gonna go over a few different types of pop-ups later, but the better ones could be free gift or sample. It doesn't need to be physical, so it could be something related to your niche, could be a guide, could be anything that like would be relevant and valuable. Memberships, okay, maybe you have a course, for example. All right, let's say my e-commerce site sells courses. Maybe I could give out a first part of that course to get that initial traction going, to show that, okay, this is a quality product. You could have an educational lead magnet. So part of the ebook, for example, like, all right, let's have something that also helps that is related to the product. Content upgrades. So PDF summarizing this blog content here. You see a lot of those used by SaaS companies, software as a service, where you have a long article, and from that you could, for example, get a checklist or additional tips or tips for implementation, etc. One of my favorites is contests. So, okay, every month from these email subscribers, we will do a raffle for a free product. And if you have a fair bit of visitors, that can be really cheap. So let's say you give out $100, $1,000 product, but you have 100,000 visitors. Like the math is really on your side here, and the cost is way cheaper than going for that 10%. That is going to cannibalize your margins. And the last one that comes to mind is quizzes and surveys. So you can have, for example, a personality test related to your niche. So let's say you would be selling pet products, for example. Like, okay, what kind of a dog would you be? Then maybe you're in the dating niche. Like, what is your ideal partner? Like, those are very easy to come up with actually as well, and they can be very curiosity intriguing, and you can make them pretty simple as well. So just the 5 steps to find this, and get that information, then get that lead capture email going. And yeah, also it's a nice way to then start the relationship and start pushing those offers. So that is the theory part. Now, to keep it practical, I'm just going to turn it over to myself on a screen share, and let's do this.
All right, welcome here behind the scenes. So since we are doing a complete guide to e-commerce pop-ups, let's dive into a few different important areas. So first of all, we have the tools. Then I'm going to cover different types of pop-ups. So we're all familiar with the traditional little box that comes to the website when you scroll up with your mouse, the exit in that pop-up, and different kinds of variations for those. So we'll cover when to use that, but when another types of pop-ups would be better. So for example, the full screen splash page, which is basically taking on the entire screen, and when to use the so-called footer bar, which I'm also going to explain what it is. Then let's cover principles for when to launch those pop-ups, so rules for showing the pop-up, and also what does make a good pop-up, what could be some rules to go over. And we're going to do it with examples, and that's why we have the screenshot. So first of all, let's dive into the tools. So I'm going to use a Shopify, for example, here. But if you're using BigCommerce, they also have plugins. If you're using Magento, also, and Shopify is just the easy way to showcase this. So I'm on appsshopify.com, and here, very simply, you can just write email capture or email popup, and you're going to get a lot of results. Now, in the beginning, it can be a little overwhelming to get 255 results right off the bat. So how do you know which ones are the best? The great thing here with App Store, you'll always have reviews. So you don't need to test it yourself and gamble on something that you're not comfortable with. So these are all from the Shopify App Store, but even with Shopify, you can use apps outside of the App Store as well, because this is basically just the code of JavaScript that goes to your site. So you can slot it on every page, on every platform. So not a problem at all, whether you're on Shopify or not. Now, I'll just go over a couple that I see are very popular. One of them is the all-time favorite Wheelio of people. So I'm not sure exactly why this came to be so popular, but I'm guessing some internet marketing guru provided a couple of case studies of how it has massively got them leads. Not necessarily the best leads in the world, but what this is a sort of a fake-ish raffle of a wheel that goes on in as you go and try to usually exit in that site. You'll get this. Now, I think you can preset the options as well. Well, you can definitely preset, but also maybe the probabilities. So something to possibly play around with. One thing though, I see it quite popular, so it's everywhere. People might have also seen it on other stores, so nothing very unique or original. However, apparently it does work, at least to a degree. So it does get you some results, at least. Now, we're gonna dive deeper into, okay, how can we beat this kind of like, let's call this a baseline level of results and take it further. Now, obviously, we also want to think here, if we do run a raffle like this, what kind of leads are we attracting? Because it's not really just about the lead quantity, it's also the quality of leads. So if you are just attracting discount leads, that might be a problem in the future. So I'm going to show a couple of other tools as well. So here's one that I've been using since 2015 when I started with Shopify. It's called Privy, and I know they're solid. They do, or at least did run a free version as well. And yes, they still do. And another one to consider is OptinMonster. So those are a couple of different ones. OptinMonster has really cool launch rules, and they do have different types of pop-ups as well, as we'll cover. Now, that's just the tools. It's not really about the tool. Like, people always get stuck on this tactical level that, okay, we need to have the best tool set, and then they keep digging and digging into the best plugins. But this is simple, just your actual pop-ups matter a lot more than the tools that you're using to launch the pop-ups. So that's about the tools. Now let's cover the different pop-up types. So this is a traditional pop-up as you see on the screen right now. It has this container and usually an X on the top right. And you have a call to action, usually a single call to action and headline, subheading. So a very similar concept here, except here it's not an email capture pop. It's more like try to push for the sale instantly type of pop. But this is more like of a mousetrap approach, where you are gathering email addresses and then trying to convert them from there. Of course, you need to think of like what kind of discounts do you want to offer, and you can you offer them? If you are offering 75% off, it can be quite bad for your average order value. So keep that in mind, of course. Then let's go for one more example. Here's another one. So very straightforward. You either sign up or you don't. Here, the primary call to action is a little bit highlighted. And then oftentimes you see in these pop-ups that the option 2 is worded as undesirable as possible. Now, a couple of examples of the full screen splash page. So this is usually done for non-SEO traffic, and you can, in some kind of tools, you can customize it according to traffic source. So if you do this on SEO, it might be hurtful for you, and be careful about the policies as well on Facebook. But you can run this on many other networks where you are getting this as an exit intent or even scroll activated, and you'll have usually you'll better have an X here or at least a visible no thanks, otherwise it can be quite tricky. But this is more difficult to close, and as a result people are more likely to actually look at it. So usually with those pop-ups people are used to clicking them off almost by instinct oftentimes, so they are not as effective as they used to be. I mean the traditional pop-ups, but this is taking care of that. Here's another example. So it's a kind of a see-through type of thing. So you'll have a call to action here and no thanks. Very straightforward. So that's the full screen splash page. And you can also use the different variations for that. Maybe you want to sometimes use it as an entry page, but oftentimes it's used later on when some intent has already been communicated by the customer through his behaviors. Then the last example I want to show you is the footer bar. In my view, this is the most underutilized thing in e-commerce, pop-ups, pop-up wise at least. So people are just using pop-ups, but they could use these just as well, especially on mobile. It's not something that people are so used to clicking off, and on mobile it's not as annoying as it is in desktop. So here, as you can see, usually you'll have a little X there to close it, because otherwise you cannot close it. Clicking here would not close it. So with this, you'll typically have a headline, sometimes even a subheading, but that might be more tricky to read. And then very simply, email field, sign up. Or sometimes you'll have a primary call to action, secondary call to action, and the primary call to action will open the email field within this bar. That's also an implementation possibility. Then here, another example. This one doesn't have an X to close it, which in my view is, well, a little bit annoying at least, but it's maybe a little bit of a preference thing as well. So very straightforward and a good way to capture a lead without annoying your customers or ruining your brand. So that's a few examples. If you want to see more, I recommend these resources. So opt-in monster, exiting pop-up examples, like here, you can Google it. They have a very nice collection of, okay, welcome mat. How do they look on mobile? What is a floating bar, for example? Here they have some for the footer, some for the header. The principles are there to gain some inspiration. So yeah, if you're curious to learn more, have a look at this after the video. Don't do it yet. But yeah, there's a lot of examples. It can be almost overwhelming. Then let's dive into the principles. When should you launch it? When should you not? And also, what does make a good pop-up? So the very first principle, think mobile first. It's if you look at your analytics, most likely 70-80% of your visitors are coming from mobile. So everything needs to work for them primarily. and the desktop is a secondary thing. So all these examples I showed you, they are typically from desktops because that's where people have traditionally been used to seeing these pop-ups. But even if you work in the office environment with your big screen, most of your clients are not there. They're all out on the road looking at your site for a few seconds, maybe going to Facebook, etc. It's a very hectic world, and you're trying to interrupt that and trying to be relevant in that world. So you'll need to think, how does this work on mobile, and make sure that the design and layout works for that. So here's an example that we decided to design for a client. Let me walk you through why we have these elements and what are they for. So first of all, we started with the 50% complete here. The idea is a psychological idea of advancement. So once somebody has started something, they have this urge to finish it also. And that's why we have that 50% complete there. And it's also like makes it seem like, okay, you have already gone this far. It's easy. You can do it. Go you, right? Then this is a sort of thing where they have already shown quite a bit of intent. So now it's more like getting out of the way with the headline. So we have simply fill in your email address below and get your datasheet email to you. We don't need to be any more complicated here. There's nothing fancy. There's nothing extra that we need to offer. It's more like straight to the point. Enter your email here. We use a bit darker font than most people to make sure that it's also readable from an older person's perspective, because we have maybe a little bit of an older audience in this case. Then notice how everything fits together. So it's email, email, email. That's what it's about. Send to my email. Like, this is what you get, and this is what will happen in the future. Notice how here I don't mention spamming, because that's what we want to avoid in their mind. But we will send you updates about the service. So this is what's going to happen with your email address. However, you can unsubscribe at any time. Then we use the logo for making that connection between, okay, here they are on this site. This site costs 365, but this is also related to the International Association of Chemical Safety. And we have a little X as well to close it. It could be here as well, just a kind of a designer decision. And also, if you tap out of screen, you can easily close it as well. And the secondary thing on desktop, the layout is a little bit different, but as you can see, it is designed mobile first. And this matters also, but a little bit less. Second principle, you need to know your customer and align with their hopes and expectations. So in this particular case, it was easy because they already wanted this, what we were offering them, the safety sheet. So in that case, okay, it's straightforward, but on many other cases, it's not. And people probably feel a bit confused with this. So this is what I see over and over again. So people are just leading with discounts. So we have $5 off, $10 off, 10% off, over and over again. So something like this, where you have an exit in the pop-up. For example, want to take X dollars off and minimum order size, so maybe etc. Now, I do find that it's a bit lazy. It's a good start. Well, it's a start. But instead of this, you could get a little bit more creative, either offering a non-fake raffle, for example. So you can say that you are picking out the price for all these subscribers at the end of the month. And that way, oftentimes it's cheaper especially if you have a lot of traffic. And it's also more exciting. It's not stopping the current purchase process. You have to go and get a discount code and then applying it, and you are sacrificing average order value right away, etc. So a lot of hindrance from this approach, also that people are not necessarily considering. So if here I click yes, this is a nice two-part pop-up, very well done. You'll enter the email and you grab the coupon. So on the third phase, this is a little bit unclear. If I click here, what happens? Okay, it copies it. That's nice. I'll click code to copy. I missed that. So yeah, if you were to do it, I would do it similar to this. And this is a nice implementation. Then you can continue shopping here. And apparently let's copy it to my clipboard. This is very well done. So if you're going to do it like that, I do it like that. But you can also get a little bit more creative. So for example, saving the basket to email. That is oftentimes why people abandon the cart in the first place. So this can be cool, especially since you have people that already have it in the cart. It's instantly more relatable and relevant for them as a pop-up. With these discounts, you want to use the percentage sometimes, you want to sometimes use the dollars. So if it's usually average order value is over $100, you want to use the dollars for, let's say, $10 off sounds more than 10% off. But if it's under 10, that's the rule of 10, you better use the percentage sign. So for example, a 10% off from a $20 offer sounds a lot more than $2 off. So yeah, be careful about that, and make sure that you use the percentage side in those cases. Now, to finish off, let's circle back to the original one, when to use the pop-ups. So the rules for launching those. And here we have a couple of things to keep in mind. So we don't want to use the pop-up right away, typically, because, okay, if it's, for example, $1 off or percentage off, why would you do it and just show it instantly? There's no reason for that. People haven't even seen the store, they haven't seen the products, etc. So that's, I would say, always a mistake. And I don't say that oftentimes because many of these are pretty gray area things, but you're just sacrificing average order value and people are not that interested yet, etc. So I would avoid that. And the way to avoid that is to set up rules. So for example, you can set up a rule for scroll depth on desktop. So you'll have, well, you can set it on mobile as well. You have this, and then on desktop, you can use the exit intent. So once the mouse cursor is going towards the sides, that's when you can show it. Then there's other rules. So if you are going to show a discount, for example, I would recommend you don't show that on the landing page. So you can make sure that the visitor has a little bit more intent before showing that. So in this case, it could be that, all right, people land on the front page of your store and then starts doing a little bit of investigation. That is already telling you that this person is a little bit of a different person that's just landing and instantly looking to leave. So if you're 10 for a person looking to leave, if you go there, take 10% off from something that you don't even want, it's not going to make any difference. And also for the person that is interested, it's not going to be very powerful because they don't know what they want yet and if they want it from this store or not. So here timing this, something like this would be wise to have it later on and using those kind of rules. So typical rules is that, all right, around 20% in the page. So here you say something like this would be about 20%. Maybe a little bit less on collections pages. Then on desktop, you can use the exit intent. On mobile, you can launch it a little bit later on the page. And then avoiding the landing page launch. So you'll have it that it's not a landing page rule. So with that, you'll instantly be less annoying and you'll also be more relevant. So those are the things that we're looking for right here. So theoretically, it's a lot more powerful if our offer is both relevant and clear. And it will be more clear the later it comes. It will be also more relevant the later it comes. Then there's not going to be so much anxiety once people already know a little bit about the store. And also, if it comes right away, people have the different motives already. So they are looking to see what's in the store. So they're more likely to already click away. Then urgency is something we haven't discussed much. There was a timer here, and a lot of you are probably thinking when to use the timer, when should we not. Technically, that's quite difficult, and also using a timer like this can be challenging because people don't know, okay, has it expired yet, or they don't necessarily go to their cell phones and try to look into, okay, I have 9 minutes and 51 seconds here. Doing like a kitchen timer thing, and then I made it or didn't. So that might be hurtful. So if you want to provide a time limit, I would recommend you do it as a day or two instead of a matter of minutes. It's very, very challenging to even check out in 10 minutes if you're on your mobile and you're trying to look around and see which products you like to buy for that $10 off. So that's pretty much all I have to say for pop-ups, at least in around 30 minutes time. It's a tremendously interesting topic and something that I think will be more important in the future because people are less and less buying from the first visit, and then you have to build more and more of a relationship. This is a great way to build a mousetrap, and with these methods, you'll have a lot better of a success than just implementing it blindly. So I hope it was helpful. I plan to put out more of these very in-depth type of videos, and make sure to subscribe for that. Make sure to also click that bell icon so that you will get notified. You can be the first one to watch these insightful videos. Then you can be also the first one to implement them. You'll be way ahead of your competition, and you'll rock e-commerce, lead generation, SaaS, whatever business you're in. So that's all. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.